managing member of Classic Communications, a full-service media and marketing company. And if you would like to bring greater recognition to your business, your organization, or yourself personally, please get in contact with us at 702-845-6129 or visit our website, classiccommunications.net. We are broadcasting to you live from the Gene Woods Racing Experience in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, just a stone throw from the Las Vegas Strip, and this is my first broadcast in the new year. I'm super excited to be recently re-signed with the World Center of Broadcast Media, so we will be coming to you with the Guy Dawson Show for another year. And I had a wonderful phone call early in the morning a couple of days ago from Brian Gardner, and he is the author of this book, Plan for America and the World. He called me early in the day, and I really appreciated the chutzpah, the audacity, and the drive to, hey, this man, when he called me and I had sent out an email earlier in the day about one of my other shows that was broadcasting that day, and he got in contact with me and he says, hey, I've got this book. I want to get the word out about it. I want to make America a better place. I have a strong message, and how could I refuse? Yeah. I really always appreciate people with resilience and the gumption to ask for what they want, and I so appreciate you getting in contact with me, Brian, and welcome to the Guy Dawson Show.
Great to be on the show with you. Fantastic. You know, it is a real passion with me because I got to a point where I was feeling pretty good. I didn't have a lot of losses with relationships and getting fired from jobs and losing family members who had passed away. That was all handled. And so I said, well, how can I now take that energy I've gotten back and go out and help the world in some way? Originally, Guy, I thought I would go into politics until I took a look at the price tag of $50 million to be a U.S. senator, and I said, no, I'd have to make promises to people I wouldn't want to make promises to. So I came up with the idea of the book so I could write about not only ideas I have, but some of the organizations that have really been instrumental in helping out in various problems that we all can agree on. Because I really don't mention Democrats or Republicans in the book. I feel that we've all got to work together in order to solve our problems. Otherwise, we're not going to clean up and clear up this country and this world.
In the current climate that we are experiencing, where there seems to be a lot of divisiveness amongst the people, I think that really is a powerful message, is that even though we may differ in opinions or our thoughts about how our country should run or what's right or what's wrong, the bottom line is that we are all Americans. We live in this wonderful country, and why not work together? Why wouldn't we want to work together to create a better country for ourselves and our children, grandchildren?
Yeah, I'm not trying with the book to say, okay, shut off all your disagreements or your opinions on certain issues. But Guy, there are a couple of issues that we all can agree on. One is we've got to get illegal drugs and alcohol abuse out of our society. The other one is, I think we all could agree that we want our young people to be properly educated, because if they are not, they are too susceptible for being manipulated by the media and other people who have their own vested interests. So at least on those two issues, this book is something that says, come on, let's sit down and let's work out these problems. And some of the groups I mentioned have been doing just a fantastic job, we'll talk about that later, in really solving some of these problems that we all can agree on.
Who'd you write the book for?
I wrote it, it's a great question to ask, because, sometimes people will write a book and they get everybody riled up, then they give them nothing that they can actually do. They leave them riled up. I wrote the book for the individuals in this country who are working under pretty much an unethical government. And I don't mean Republicans or Democrats. I mean, there's a lot of corruption going on in Washington. And these individuals are still being productive. They are still being ethical. They are still being decent, and they're bringing up their kids with good values. That is who I wrote the book for, because that force is unstoppable. If I can motivate them and validate them to the point where they're saying, yes, the politicians do need to be responsible to us. I do want to see our students educated properly, and I do want to see drugs out of the society so I can walk to the grocery store at 9:30 at night if I want and not get harassed by somebody.
when I was reading a little background info on your book, one of the things that really stood out for me is that you are sharing messages really of hope, and not so much some of the messages that we hear in the media is it's doom and gloom. Everything is terrible. My experience is with people. I meet a lot of people every day, either in business and elsewhere, being in media and things. And there are a lot of really good people in this world who are doing, as you said before, stand-up things, wanting to do right by their fellow man. They want to raise their children to respect others. They themselves respect others. That's really an underrated element of our society today.
But here's the thing. The vested interests have totally misassigned that this is a powerful force. I've got to tell you, I've done 3 or 4 radio shows on this book already. The response from the DJs and the hosts has just been incredible. They say the book is awesome, it's easy to read, it hits those points about let's sit down at the boardroom meeting of this world and come on, we got to start talking and getting these problems solved. So the book somehow has just hit the mark, and people are really responding to it. It's great to see that, because I believe there is a huge bulk of people who want a decent environment, a decent community, going back to these other points, making sure the kids are educated and making sure drugs aren't every place in our society.
Do you have suggestions, which I'm sure you do in this book, about how we can start the constructive dialogue?
Right. The first thing is, and everyone listening, and you might get a laugh about this, I really wanted to have a component of this book be something that I could put into the hands of the person, even if they just hear the show and they don't purchase my book. The politicians need a name change to public servants. And if they don't like it, and you call one of your elected officials a public servant, and you get a bad reaction at a barbecue or when you send them an email or a letter, I think you should think about not re-electing them, because probably they're working for somebody else. So there's something that individuals listening to the show, getting a hold of my book, maybe getting a hold of one of these bookmarks that I pass out all over the place, that has on the back of it the various groups that I talk about in the book. You can start immediately by calling your elected officials, public servants, to remind them of who they're supposed to be working for. The next thing that I cover in this book is, and I have a friend here locally who goes out almost every weekend with these booklets from the Truth About Drugs. And these booklets are really powerful. The police come up to her table all the time and they say, okay, I need 3 more of those, 2 more of those, 5 more of those, because they give them out all the time. One of them, this green one, has all different kinds of drugs listed in it, from marijuana to inhalants to heroin, alcohol. And the reason these booklets are so hard-hitting and so well received by young people, and I mention them in my book, the Truth About Drugs organization, is that they don't tell kids, hey, don't use drugs, I'm an adult, do what I say. They say, here's what will happen if you use these drugs. And then the kid goes, that's what's going to happen? I ain't using that junk. And so they have individual booklets on the different drugs. They have DVDs, and they have a series of 14 books that this has all of them in it, but then you can get individual books depending on what the young person might be dealing with or wants to pass on to a friend. They have these in Spanish as well as English. They have been distributed all over the world. And the reason I wanted to mention this group in my book is because they are putting out what I believe is the correct ammunition. We've been using the wrong ammunition in the war against drugs. And I don't mean bullets. I'm talking about the education of young people is the way to get them to go, I don't want to mess with that stuff, because it's going to leave long-term health problems for me. When I get to be an adult, have kids, I don't want to have to deal with these problems that these drugs caused for me. So that's one organization, and they have these booklets free. You go to their website, which is contained in the book, or truthaboutdrugs.org, and you can get these booklets sent to you for free, and they're fantastic. The police use them all the time in this community, and that's one organization that is doing some really good work, and that's why I wanted to include them in my book.
Yeah, Brian Gardner is the author of Plan for America and the World, and it is a book that is a part of a solution to some of the ills that our country faces. He's got some great literature here. We're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll come back. I want to talk more about the book as well as the overall platform that you are developing to get the messages of hope out to the citizens of America and the world, because the world is larger than America. We're going to take a short commercial break and be back in a few minutes with more of The Guy Dawson Show.